Alrighty, so today we're gonna do part two of the review for match week number 5, looking at these last 6 games. And in these last 6 games, there were definitely a couple of home team take a pretty big L at home. And the first one is an example of it between Sporting KC versus Seattle, and that the good news for Sporting KC in this one, just like the last game, they were able to take a 1-0 lead early in the game. The bad news is, just like the last game, they end up losing this one, but unlike the last one, they lost pretty big in that one. And it turns out that, Jordan Morris, after he wasn't getting called up by the U.S. men's national team for those Nations League game, he took it personal in terms of that and just completely went off in this game. Though early on in the 5th minute, like I said, Sporting KC get off to a great start. And it's William Agata, the one that gets the opening goal for Sporting KC. So you talk about this week, it seems like there's a lot of players that tends to be belong in that cursed number 9 club, a club that, these number 9 players just cannot put the ball into the back and then are just being snake bitten and are able to finally found their first goal in a while. That's kind of the case with William Agata. I mean, he's been pretty snake bitten this season, and it's got to feel good the fact that he was able to get the goal. And that, again, at this point, it looked like maybe Sporting KC was going to win this one comfortably because, Seattle were missing a couple of key guys coming into this one, and that Sporting KC will finally get their first win and have a 1-0 lead. But that was all the happiness that that crowd at Children Mercy Park would be seeing from their team, because after when Zuzi tried for a second goal but missed wide from long range in the 23rd minute, this is when the J-Mo show began. It's Jordan Morris first scoring from Chu to tie the game up at one apiece. Chu himself tried to give the lead for Seattle, but he puts one right to post game, and we head to halftime with this game tie up at one apiece. But it wouldn't stay tie up for very long, because in the 54th minute, Morris would score again, this time from True and Paulo to make it 2-1 in favor of the Seattle Sounders. And I know Morris is going to be the big story in this one, but how about Leo True? Really good shift in this one, getting 2 primary assists and even getting 1 secondary assist in this one. Post game, Dan denied Chu as he tipped that shot over in Seattle. They were pushing for more. I mean, they were in complete control up to this point. And to make matters worse for Sporting KC, Ben Sweat would get his second yellow card. And, a lot of Sporting KC fans have not been liking what Ben Sweat has done to the team. In fact, he's kind of started becoming one of the more hated player in that Sporting KC team. This is not going to help the cause. I mean, he was already on yellow card. There was no need for him to do a professional foul there. And yeah, that was the second yellow card, and Sporting KC were down to 10 men and we're down 2-1 in this one. And that just invite Jordan Morris to score more goals, as in the 69th minute, he completes his hat trick from Ladero and Chu to make it 3-1 in favor of Seattle. And then Morris says, why not go for number 4 in the 77th minute, as he scored here from Chu and Rusnak. Oh, actually, I said before that Leo Chu, of course, got 2 primary assists. I take that back. He got 3 primary assists in this one. So, well, I know, again, Jordan Morris is going to steal the headlines in terms of getting the goals in this one. How about Leo Chu also getting a hat trick assist? And it's unfortunate the fact that, we always remember the guy that, of course, scored the hat trick, or in this case, Jordan Morris joining one of the few players in this league to score 4 goals in a game. But people will not shouldn't forget that Leo Chu also got a hat trick of assists, and getting hat trick of assists is not an easy task in this league itself. So yeah, certainly, clearly that was definitely a great moment for both Morris and Chu, but definitely a great moment for the Sounders too, because they were 4-1 up at that point, and that would be the final score in this one. As the shots in this one, 13 shots compared to 7 that Sporting KC had, 3 shots on goal compared to 7 that Seattle has. Again, there wasn't really as much chances. This is why I didn't really wrote too much notes there, because there wasn't really as much chances besides the goals that was scored in this one. 3 shots off target for the 2 that Seattle has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 4 that Seattle has, and possession wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that Sporting KC has in this one. So yeah, for the Seattle Sounders, despite missing guys, it seems like they at least have Jordan Morris, who is right now actually leading the league in terms of the Golden Boot race. And I know it's still early, but the fact that he's already got 7 goals, I mean, I think it will be a mistake if the U.S. men's national team would ignore Jordan Morris and not include him in the national team, because you can see what Jordan Morris in his season has been. He has really got off to a red hot start, to a point where I mean, I know there's a lot of depth in terms of the U.S. in terms of their attack, but why not give Jordan Morris a chance? At least in the Gold Cup, that is. He is a guy that I think he might have just played himself back into the national team picture, especially after this performance where, like I said, he definitely took it personal when he was he found out he wasn't part of the U.S. men's national team in the Nations League and just put up 4 goals and basically proved to Anthony Hudson that, yeah, you better include me next time when the U.S. Are going to be playing in the Gold Cup. But for Sporting KC, yeah, I mean the slow start that they've been having, it's just continue, and that again, this does feel like very similar to what happened last season, and it's a shame the fact that this is the case because again, I thought last season it looked like they turned that corner in the second half of the season, and I did really truly believe that they really look like they're back to their being their best, and nope, it looks like they're back to where they were last season, and this is also why I said, just because the team have a great second half of the season doesn't always mean they can carry that into the next season too. And I think Sporting KC is a prime example of that. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Minnesota versus the Vancouver Whitecaps. Now, coming into this game, if you had told me that the Loons can get a point out of this game despite pretty much missing almost their entire roster, in fact, I probably should have wrote MNUFC 2 versus the Vancouver Whitecaps because it literally was a B team or even a C team against the Vancouver Whitecaps in this one at home. And if you would have told me that if they can get a point out of this game, I would have been satisfied because knowing how many players are missing due to international duty. Even though they were playing against Vancouver, it's a winnable bowl game. I would have said I would have been mind the fact that they got a point out of this one, and they did. But it's just the way how they got it. And you cannot tell me when you concede a goal in the 8th minute of stoppage time to draw 1-1. You cannot tell me that I am going to be happy with them getting a point. And that I've always said before, when you concede literally in the last second in this game, it's always going to feel like a loss, and it really does feel like a loss in this one. Albeit, again, I know there's going to we're going to talk about the controversy surrounding the stoppage time in this game too. But early on, White actually struck the post on the volley. So 1 minute in, Vancouver, they know that the Loons are shorthanded, so they had an opportunity to maybe get a win in this one, and they got off to a positive start with some of the possession and some good direct play. Irvin did palm a aggressive volley shot away. I thought Clint Irvin had a great game in this one, and it just shows you why I really like it when Minnesota decided to get him. He's a keeper that I wouldn't say he's one of the upper echelon in terms of goalkeeper, but he's definitely in the upper echelon in terms of being a backup goalkeeper. He definitely showed it with his veteran presence in this one. Veselinovic then slides it wide from close range, and again, it was a slow start for the Loons, and it was kind of expected because with this makeshift team, it just feels like they're trying to get a feel with each other since these guys probably haven't played with each other in a regular basis in a competitive game. In fact, the possession was 62 to 38 in favor of Vancouver, and the shots were 6-1 in favor of Vancouver up to that point. Fragapani then hits it high off the volley before Veselinovic almost scored an own goal, but Takaoka was there for the rescue to able to keep that one out. Amaria then hits one right to Takaoka, and the attack started to show some life for the Loons. I mean, after a slow start, it seems like the attack has started to show some life that has been pretty dormant throughout this game. Trapwood hits one into the side netting, but then in the 41st minute, Minnesota scores. It's Menda Garcia scoring from Valentin and Trapp to make it 1-0 in favor of the Loons. Great cross there from Zarek Valentin that he's been very underrated so far this season. He's another guy that, I know he didn't have the best time when he was with the Houston Dynamo, but he's starting to kind of look like his Portland Timbers for himself. When Valentin was with the Timbers, he was very, very good, and it started to show him with Minnesota United too. But yeah, that gives the Loons a 1-0 lead. Gall did try to give the Whitecaps the equalizer, but he pulls it wide from long range as the Whitecaps were pressing back to try to get the equalizer, but we do head to halftime with Minnesota leading 1-0. Now in the second half, Irvin straight away had to tip goal header over, and once again, the Whitecaps, they were on the front foot. It was another slow start coming out of the break for the Loons. And that I even say though that I will say that despite the fact that the Whitecaps were putting some pressure, they were really creating a lot of chances, and that again, that has a lot of credit due to this Minnesota backline, which I think this backline has been definitely much better than what we've seen last season. I mean, it makes a huge difference when you see the fact that they add in Miguel Tapias. That has been huge for this team, although he wasn't available in this one, and the fact that you know, even with some of the backup player in this one with Coleman. I mean, Brent Coleman actually had a good game, and that's insane to say compared to what happened last game too. I mean, it just shows that this defense was much better and much tighter than what I thought it was going to be. But in the 64th minute, Shoup did pulls it wide from long range before Vite also puts it wide from long range. And, you know, I also thought Minnesota got to be careful with those turnovers because as much as I praise their defense, there was time that midfield kind of turned the ball over very cheaply, and you do not want to turn the ball over against this Vancouver team. Like this Whitecaps team have some really good player that can go quickly on the transition. Blackman then hits it wide before White puts it wide from close range because Brian White is not allowed to score in MLS. He's only allowed to score in the CONCACAF Champions League. But there was no doubt that Vancouver was knocking on the door for the equalizer, and it feels like Rogue Heathmo is activated once again. But this time at home, it looked like the Loons were holding on for this 1-0 lead. White, of course, is in on goal, but again, he's not allowed to score in the league, so he missed wide there. Amaria then had a rare Minnesota opportunity in the second half, but he puts that one wide before Veselinovic actually scored what was the equalizer for Vancouver. But the Loons were saved by the flag. There was an offside on the development of play. I think it was Blackman, the one that was in an offside position. But either way, the goal was chopped off. The Loons were still leading 1-0. Beecher then hits one right to Irvin before Gresso would hit one wide from long range. And again, Minnesota was holding on for dear life. Like you just kind of sense that Vancouver was just pushing so many men forward. They were looking to get the equalizer. Though in the 4th minute stoppage time, Iwi did put it wide from close range. I definitely heard some criticism for Emmanuel Iwi for taking this shot, and I get it. You know, in the 4th minute stoppage time, you don't want it to when the fact that he was kind of in on goal, you want to just head to the corner flag and kill as much time as possible. But I can also get why he decided to do that because again, he was making his debut. This was his chance to finally play for the main team, and it must be a dream come true for a lot of those players. So you know you're gonna have that confidence to try to go for it, maybe be the hero, and that I think maybe in the future, Adrian Heath will tell him that, yeah, you know, now's not the time to play hero. I mean, yes, you want to finally score your first goal, but in terms of game awareness, this is the time to basically just kind of put it in the corner flag and kill as much time as possible. But like I said, for a kid that is making his first start, I can understand why maybe the game awareness is just not there for him. Though Blackman did puts it high from close range, but then in the 8th minute of stoppage time, Simon Beecher would score the equalizer for the Vancouver Whitecaps, and this is where we get to the controversy surrounding stoppage time. Now, I understand that a lot of Loons fans were very upset about the fact that the referee the referee did not blow the whistle at the 6 minute that was supposed to be added on. And by the way, I was kind of frustrated when they announced that there was 6 minutes of added time because I didn't think that from what I saw in the second half, there wasn't really much that I can say that was worthy of the 6 minutes. I mean, I would say maybe at most I can say 5 minutes or 4 minutes. But obviously, a lot of Loons fans were upset the fact that we played past the 6 minutes, especially the fact that Clint Irvin was about to take a goal kick and the clock was already showing 7 minutes. Usually, the referee would just blow for the full time whistle when the goal kick is put back into play. But that being said, I am one of those people that do think that you should definitely play till the end of the whistle. And while it's frustrating, the fact that the time should have been expired and the referee should have blown for full time after Clint Irvin puts that goal kick back into play, you need to continue to play till the whistle. And apparently, Michael Marquez didn't get that memo because yeah, this was just. I mean, I don't know why he decided to be so cute there to try to dribble the ball and unsurprisingly gave the ball away, and that pretty much start a transition attack. And I talked about before, Minnesota's got to be watching out for those turnover because you know this Whitecaps team can definitely create some chances when they're able to win the ball high up the pitch, and it shouldn't be a big surprise the fact that they were able to score here. So yeah, in a game where Minnesota was leading pretty much in the entire game. They let one slip in the end and drew 1-1 in this one. Although shots in this one kind of tells you Vancouver deserved at least a draw out of this one. They had 23 shots compared to just 9 that Minnesota has. In fact, actually not 9, 8 So they have like a one shot too generous for the Loons in this one. 2 shots on goal compared to 5 that Vancouver has. 14 shots off target compared to 3 that Minnesota has. 4 shots out of block compared to 3 that Minnesota has. And possession wise, 63% possession compared to 37% possession that Minnesota has in this game. And that, again, I would have been happy if they got a draw out of this one if that equalizer didn't came in the 8th minute of stoppage time. But again, because of that, it just feels like this was not only a huge missed opportunity, but just feels like a loss because of the way how it is. And now the fact that their next game is against St. Louis, and even though yes, they're gonna get their regular starter back for their next game, yeah, after what we saw St. Louis did, and we'll talk about this game in just a bit, I don't think I have a lot of confidence in this one, especially the fact that that game is on the road. And I know some might say, well, Minnesota has won their first 2 road games. Yeah, that was against a relative a team that's near the bottom of the standing in Colorado, and then also against a Dallas team that, in the first game of the season, it's always so unpredictable. So yeah, against St. Louis on the road, boy, that's going to be a really tough task. And that, let's just hope that at the end of the season, if this team does miss out on the playoffs, or maybe miss out on some seeding by 2 points, let's just hope we don't look back at this game as the game that if they would have won this game, that probably shouldn't have happened. But that being said, moving on in the next match, we got Nashville and FC Cincinnati, and this was really a game of 2 halves in this one because I thought Nashville were the better team in the first half, but Cincinnati kind of took over in the second half, and the difference really was Cincinnati was able to score the only goal in the game in the second half to get the 1-0 win. Now, early on, Willis did rob Brenner, who was in on goal there. Well, that was really the only good opportunity that Cincinnati has in the first half because Nashville kind of sort of took over. First, it was Pico heads it high from close range, and I did say that after a slow start, there was some chances for both teams to get the opener. Little did we know that's when Nashville started to press for the opening goal. Celentano would deny Mukhtar in the front post before Pico volley goes high from long range, as again, Nashville was pressing to get the opening goal. Zimmerman had a header that was actually deflected off of his own teammate Sapon, but it actually was still goal bound, despite the deflection. And Salatano just had to be able to slap that one away from preventing that going in on goal. Before Salatano would deny Mukhtar from close range, and then Zimmerman had a shot that was crucially blocked by Mascara. I mean, if Mascara didn't block that, that would have been in the back of net, and it would have been 1-0 in favor of Nashville. But instead, we had to halftime scoreless, and in the second half, we wouldn't remain scoreless for long, as in the 48th minute, I mean, I said before, this feels like it's the week for any strikers or any number 9 that seems to be having a slow start to the season and are just kind of feeling snake bitten in the beginning of the season. Feels like this is the week for them to finally get out of that and finally score a goal, and that's kind of the case for Brendan Vasquez. Finally able to get a goal, and I even wrote the goal drought is definitely over for Brandon Vasquez. Finally opened his account, goal scoring account in 2023 with a goal here to make it 1-0 in favor of Cincinnati. And then it could have been 2-0 as Barrial actually was going for a second goal, but he hits it right to Willis before Brenner would do the same thing just 6 minutes later. But the momentum was definitely with Cincinnati. Again, it was a tale of 2 halves. Cincinnati was the better side in the second half, and they were pressing to try to get the second goal. Willis would deny Brenner from close range before Arias would pose it wide from long range. Bunbury then redirect a corner that it goes wide in the 82nd minute, and that was really the only chance that Nashville has. But in the 86th minute, Willis would deny Arias from long range, and again, Willis, just like what we saw Salatano kind of keeping Cincinnati in this game, keeping it 0-0. Willis was just keeping Nashville in this one. Like this could have been easily 2 or 3-0 for Cincinnati if it wasn't for Joe Willis. But unfortunately for his team, they weren't able to get the comeback. As in the end, Cincinnati walks away with a 1-0 road win. Shots in this one: 17 shots compared to 15 that Cincinnati had, 7 shots on goal compared to 3 that Nashville has, 8 shots off target compared to 5 that Cincinnati has, 3 shots that was blocked compared to 6 that Nashville has. In possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Cincinnati has in this game. Great road win here for Cincinnati to remain unbeaten. And for Nashville, yeah, after a good start to the season, things have started to kind of go the wrong way for this team, and they're going to have to hope to try to bounce back heading into the next game. With that being said, moving on in the next match, and you thought I was going to wear St. Louis, didn't you? When you click on this video, you thought that I was going to wear St. Louis because the fact that they won again. But I feel like, it's time to wear a different jersey for my second part of the review because I feel like it's kind of redundant to keep wearing St. Louis. even with this impressive 4-0 road win that they have against RSL. But nevertheless, this was an impressive win in a way that I will say that, when you look at how this game goes, I don't think the scoreline really indicate the fact that St. Louis absolutely dominate this game, which is fine. I don't think St. Louis fans really care about that. I mean, RSL fan will argue the fact that this was never a 4-0 game, consider what we saw in the first half. But in the second half, it's shown that St. Louis really just completely blown the door open in terms of goal scoring, and just pretty much annihilated this RSL defense. But early on in the ninth minute, Bartlett did heads it right to McMath before Ostrich did heads one right to McMath, as I thought it was another good start for St. Louis. They were creating some chances to get the opening goal, but that when the momentum swing right to RSL favor. First, it was Ruiz hits one right to Berkey in the 32nd minute before Miram just pulls it wide from close range. I mean, if that one was a little bit more toward the left side, that was going to the back of the net. I mean, Berkey was beaten there. He was full stretch there. I didn't think that he would have got to that one if that one was on target. But that being said, as I said, RSL has woke up. They were looking like the one that was pushing for the opener themselves, and they almost did it right on the stroke of halftime when Berkey absolutely robbed Pablo Ruiz from point blank playing effort. And I feel like this is the first game where Berkey really got tested a lot. I mean, Berkey has been tested a couple of times, but this was really the game where I thought he has answered the bell, and it's expected because Roman Berkey, he's a Champions League goalkeeper doing his time with Dortmund, and that he definitely lived up to his name coming into this one. But we do head to halftime with the scoreline being scoreless heading into the second half. But just like this game between Nashville and FC Cincinnati, you wouldn't say tie a 0-0 for long heading into the second half, as in the 47th minute, St. Louis would begin their goal scoring barrage. It started with Giacchini scoring for the second game in a row from Vasilev to make it 1-0 in favor of St. Louis. It was a great delivery there from Indiana Vasilev, and then Giacchini was able to head that one away to give St. Louis the 1-0 lead. Just 14 minutes later, they would make it 2-0 as João Klaus, probably one of the most informed number 9 besides Jordan Morris this season. He scored again here to make it 2-0 in favor of St. Louis. And again, it was a great finish from an informed form number 9. Like, an informed number 9 does not score a half volley goal just from the outside of his box like what João Klaus scored here. And then in the 66 minutes, he would score again. And this was kind of a goal that kind of summarized the fortune that St. Louis has had, and maybe once again will give those haters of St. Louis some light. The fact that, oh, here we go again. Are we gonna see another moment where St. Louis is gonna be gifted by a goal because of a bad back pass? Yes, we are, because here it was another bad back pass. That João Klaus basically does that. I mean, I said this before, and I say it again. If you're able to do that once, maybe that's a luck. But if you do it 2, 3, or 4 times, that's not luck. There has to be something that is into that, and I do think that there is definitely something to that, especially from what I talked about with St. Louis in that video that I made talking about the record that they have set for an expansion team to start the season, that it's because of the pressing system. Like the pressing system that they run has made teams really nervous, and that teams are just having trouble in terms of playing out of the press and making those mistakes. But also it's due to where the position the players are. Like those players that in the position that they are. I mean, it's one thing to have a good press, but it's also another to have guys to be in a good position where indeed if there is a bad pass, they're in a perfect position to intercept that. And João Klaus is basically a prime example of. He's always seems to be a guy that is in a perfect position where in case there's a bad back pass, he's going to easily intercept that one, and he's going to go on go and basically score it. And he does it here to make it 3-0 in favor of St. Louis. The floodgates were completely blown open as St. Louis is basically running riot at the riot. I didn't get it. Running riot at the riot. I mean, RSL fans are going to be really disliking this video now that I said that. But anyway, in the 71st minute, it was almost 4-0 if it wasn't for McMath denying Vasilet in St. Louis the fourth goal. But the fourth goal did came in the 76th minute. Is Rasmus coming off the bench, scoring from Leuven and Klaus to make it 4-0 in favor of St. Louis. And I feel like McMath should have done better. I mean, this was, it was It was one that was hit toward the near post, and as a goalkeeper, you were taught to not get beat easily in the near post, and I thought McMath got beat too easily there in the near post. I mean, he got a hand into it, but just not strong enough to palm that one away. But nevertheless, that made it 4-0, and that was the final score of this game as St. Louis absolutely running riot in against this RSL team. And the shots in this one, though, again, despite the fact that St. Louis had a great second half, it kind of doesn't shows you the fact that it wasn't as a game that should be like a 4-0 game. And again, I feel like that maybe is the same case we're gonna say in some of these St. Louis game where there's going to be some blowouts that maybe St. Louis would have that maybe it doesn't look like it's a blowout, but it's definitely going to count it if you look on the score sheet. But the shots in this one, they actually got outshot in this one. 19 shots compared to 14 that St. Louis had. Both team had 8 shots on goal. Both team had 3 shots off target. 8 shots that was blocked for the free that St. Louis had. And possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that St. Louis has. And while RSL would argue the fact that if they would have put away their chances, maybe things could be different, but yeah, that's just the what if game. And St. Louis doesn't care about your what if game. They'll keep winning, and that's now 5 straight wins to start the season. And I think they're now just 2 away from breaking the record that Sporting KC held, I think back in 2012 or 13. It was one of those years that they start the season 7 wins in a row. If it was 2013, that was also the same year that Sporting KC won MLS Cup. And I'm not saying that St. Louis is going to do what the Chicago Fire did back in 1998, but one thing for sure is that I think unless if St. Louis just go in a complete meltdown and fall apart for the rest of the season, I don't think this team is missing the playoffs. I mean, you don't start the season 5 wins on the bounce and miss the playoffs. It would be incredibly disappointing if that, of course, is the case. And I just don't see it. Like when you look at this team, it just feels like this is going to be sustainable. And yes, maybe there's going to be times where the luck is going to run out for them, but it's just the way that they set up. It has worked to a treat. And unless if teams isn't going to find a way to adjust to the to what Bradley Carnell has done to this team, St. Louis is just going to keep winning. But that being said, I am now going to switch boards and look at the last 2 games that happened in terms of the busy Saturday night action and match week number 5. So moving on, in the next game is the game that I went on Saturday between the Quakes versus Toronto FC. And I didn't write as much notes as I usually write when I attend a Quakes game, and a lot of that has to do, especially in the first half. Yeah, it was kind of a slow game, and overall, I think this was a game where, by the way, it ended 0-0 between both of these teams. Where, yeah, for the Quakes, I feel like they'll be very frustrated that they did not get anything out of this game, especially the fact that in the second half, again, I feel like this was kind of a similar game that we've seen from the Quakes, at least in the last 2 home games, where they started to grow into this game as we get into the second half and started having really good opportunity. But unlike the first 2 home games, they just weren't able to bury one in the back of the net. But early on in the first half, Murray did blast it wide in the back post in the 6th minute before Mark Sinkowski would deny Kerr after a giveaway from the Quakes. Actually, I think it was Kikanovic, the one that blasted it wide there, not Paul Murray in the 6th minute. But nevertheless, it was a lively start in this game as both teams was going for the opener. Yeah, that wouldn't last because the chances. I mean, there was still chances, but it wasn't like there was these kind of golden opportunity where either of these goalkeeper had to be trouble with. Cervinia would then pulls it wide from long range before Bernadeschi hits a free kick that was actually blocked by his own teammate and goes wide there. Then Bernadeschi would pull it wide in the 33rd minute. Again, despite the fact that Bernadeschi had some opportunity in this one, it wasn't like the Quakes were giving him grade A chances. Most of these chances that Bernadeschi has was really low percentage shot, and I thought the Quakes did a good job in terms of shutting him down. And I even said in my quick recap from the car, if you can shut down Bernadeschi, you basically just shut down this Toronto FC attack. But in the 43rd minute, Kikanovic puts it high and wide from close range in the 43rd minute, and we do head to halftime scoreless between both of these teams. Now in the second half, Bernadeschi would puts it high in the near post as once again Toronto was on the front foot, but that would change quickly because in the 53rd minute Rodriguez would head it wide from close. Actually, that was coming from the corner, and then he would head it wide again from close range in the 55th minute. I thought Rodriguez was good in this one, and so far it's been a great season for Rodriguez. Rodriguez, and him alongside with Mensa has really stabilized this back line to a point where we're not seeing those sloppy goals that the Quakes concede and those leaky key goals that they conceded last season compared to this year. And Rodriguez himself, he was definitely a threat going for on the attack too, especially from the corner. Espinoza then hits a free kick right to Johnson as again the Quakes now have the momentum. They were pressing not only for the winner but for the opening goal. Though as soon as I said that, Mark Stokowski did have to make a save to deny Kerr from close range, and then Cal was actually trying to stick one in the back post, but he was denied the post as he was trying to stick that one in. But the play was recycled, and Rodriguez actually hits a volley that also struck the post. But unfortunately, the offside flag was up, and it wasn't offside on Rodriguez, but more off on K Cow, who was drifted in an offside position when he hits that one off the post. So basically anything after that, it basically just neglect the whole play. But still, man, that's got to be infuriating. The fact that the Quakes had two opportunity and both time the post just said no. We then had some coming together between both of these teams. Kind of surprising because both of these teams don't really have a lot of history. Maybe besides what happened a couple of years ago when the Quakes won against TFC despite playing with just 9 men. But there was a shout for a penalty not given for the Quakes. Before I just thought that it just looked like TFC was just happy with 0-0 draw, and I don't blame them because they were also missing some key players in this team too due to international duty, and you knew that that was probably the plan for Bob Bradley's team. They were trying to keep this at 0-0 and really kind of give some confidence in this defense that has just not been good so far in this season. But yeah, they were bunkering for a 0-0 draw, and the Quakes were pressing to try to get the lead. Tommy Thompson had a chance to do so in the 89th minute, but he flicks it wide. Before, in the second minute of stoppage time, Johnson did deny Yule, but he actually rebounded right to Tommy Thompson there in the back post, and he whips it. If that was Wondolowski, if that was Wando, that's in the back of the net. That would have been 1-0 in favor of the Quakes. But unfortunately, it is Tommy Thompson, and no offense to Tommy Thompson, he's not Wando, and it's kind of frustrating the fact that he just completely whiffs on that. But it's also kind of summarized the night for the Quakes. They were just not being clinical whatsoever in front of goal, despite giving the opportunity to score a goal. And in the end, TFC got exactly what they were hoping for, a 0-0 draw in this one. The shots in this one, 15 shots compared to 14 that the Quakes had, but only 2 shots on goal for both of these teams. 11 shots off target for the 6 that Toronto has, 1 shot that was blocked for the 7 that TFC had, and possession-wise, 54% possession compared to 46% possession that the Quakes has in this game. And again, I know they were missing some players, the Quakes, but this is a game that they had to win. Like this, it's one thing to drop points at home, but it's another the fact that they drop points against a team that's not playing very well to start the season, and also a team that is just basically injured to hell, and on top of that, missing players due to international duty. But we'll see whether or not they can bounce back in the next game, which is also another winnable bowl game against the Houston Dynamo. Although that being said, the Dynamo has seems to have figured things out at least in the last two games. But when you talk to Dynamo fans, they will say that when they're on the road, it's probably an automatic L. But that's another game I think for the Quakes to got to win, because again, I said before, I don't think it's been a bad start for the Quakes. In fact, it's been a pretty good start for the Quakes, and pretty good start in terms of Luchi Gonzalez air with the Quakes. But I feel like it could definitely be better, especially this is just going to be one of those games where I feel like the Quakes drop 2 points in this one rather than actually gain a point despite playing a depleted squad. But moving on in terms of the next match, and actually the last match of match week number 5 is LAFC and FC Dallas. And I gotta say, I have to feel bad for FC Dallas in this game because they had a lot of things that kind of gone against them in terms of VAR call, albeit some of them were rightfully correct, or some of them were correct calls, but they had pretty much a lot against them in this one against LAFC. I mean, it's one thing to have to face against LAFC on the road, but to have a lot of things that goes against you. You would think that Dallas, of course, would have no chance in terms of winning this. And even though they did end up on the losing side in this one, they fought very hard in this one, and I feel like they should have got at least a point out of this one because of the effort that they put in. But it didn't really start out that way for Dallas in the first minute. In fact, their former player Hollins had almost scored against his own team or score against his old team, but he missed wide from close range before LAFC did score in the second minute in this game. And it's Timothy Tillman continue to show you why he is one of the most hotly rate the play or one of the best signing that LAFC has got. I mean, LAFC have always tends to be hitting some gems in the transfer market, and Tillman is definitely one of them. As he scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of LAFC, but you would love to thank that Dallas backline because they commit a WTF turnover there. And yeah, you cannot commit a turnover against this LAFC team. That is a death sentence every single time. And yeah, just like that, LAFC were up 1-0, and they were all over Dallas. Like I think what Dallas was trying to do, they were trying to play out of the back, but again, you it's okay to play out of the back, but when you play out of the back against this LAFC press, you got to be careful. And they weren't being careful; they were being way too casual and kind of almost play right into the hands of LAFC, and also just kind of turning the ball over to. And again, that's what really caused the goal that they conceded in the second minute. But I will say that eventually they did settle down and that they did weather the early LAFC storm that LAFC put on them. And in fact, they almost equalized in the 19th minute when Sergio actually puts it into the back of the net. The problem is, VAR says that that goal did not count because apparently O'Brien was screening McCarthy there. McCarthy even said he was screened there. He feel like there should have been. I mean, in hockey that would be goalkeeping interference, but in soccer here, I would say that we'll see whether if O'Brien was actually in an offside position, and he was. I mean, again, you don't have to touch the ball, but if you're in an offside side position and you're screening the goalkeeper and the ball come toward your direction, yeah, that is going to be called back. So unfortunate that that of course is the case, and even more unfortunate because that was a great goal from Edwin Cerrillo. I mean, that was an absolute banger. Certainly a contention for goal of the week if that would stand, but we stay with LAFC leading 1-0. Though in the 30th minute, Opoku did hit the side netting, though the flag also went up there, so that wouldn't have counted even if he puts it into the back of net. But then things takes a turn for a worse for Dallas, as in the 36th minute, Tomasi would get himself a red card here after VAR deemed that his swing of the arm toward Valencia that fouled him was deemed a red card. I mean, it's debatable. I mean, I could see why maybe some people think that that is harsh, but again, I can also see why that is worthy of a red card with the way that when you swing an opponent with your arm like that, even if it isn't an intention, if you decide to swing your arm like that to foul a defender, yeah, I would say that there are times where I've seen that be giving a red card, and seems like the VAR crew agrees with me that, and they gave Tomasi a red card when originally it was supposed to be a yellow. But yeah, Dallas were down to 10 men, and it just feels like, yep, that's pretty much it for Dallas. I mean, LAFC should easily cruise this to a victory, and it looked like they were going to try to get that second goal as Vela tried to backheel a shot that Paz was able to deny before he heads it high from close range. And then he also struck the post in the first minute of stoppage time, but the flag, of course, went up. I mean, Carlos Vela, I don't know if he has actually scored a goal so far this season. I think he has done, but man, he's definitely struggling in terms of the scoring department, and a guy that, again, I know we're not going to see the prime Carlos Vela that we saw back in 2019, but he's still going to be a leader of this team. But it's just that he's not going to contribute as much in terms of the goal scoring department, and at least that's kind of the case, at least so far in the beginning of the season, where he's kind of getting off to a bit of a slow start. But we do head to halftime with LAFC leading 1-0. Oh, and oh yeah, Vela did score, but I think it was in the CONCACAF Champions League that I remember that he of course score a goal. But nevertheless, in the second half, Ariola would hit it right to McCarthy. As I thought it was a promising start for Dallas. Like I thought Dallas actually played well, had some possession despite playing down a man, but that all kind of changed in the 54th minute when Buke actually curls it wide from 17 yards out before Vela also curls it high from close range as LAFC was once again pressing to get that second goal. Morello would then heads it over the bar before Paz would deny Buke, and then he would deny Tillman of scoring his second goal from close range. And again, Martin Paz single-handedly keeping his team in this game with some incredible save. And then on the other end, Farfan did have a rare chance for Dallas, but he slashed that one wide. And I also wrote LAFC is also single-handedly trying to blow this lead because with all those missed opportunity that LAFC has had, you just wonder, is it going to come back to haunt them? We have seen this before, at least in that CONCACAF Champions League against Alajuelense in the second leg, where they had a lot of opportunity and they weren't able to put it away, and they allow Alajuelense in the game as long as possible, and then eventually Alajuelense was able to pounce on it. Well, they actually did get an early goal, Alajuelense, but they eventually did get a second goal because of the fact that LAFC wasn't clinical in terms of getting the equalizer, and I thought we might be in for the same case here. And it was, because in the 73rd minute, Dallas equalized. It's Tafari scoring from Ibiaga and Jimenez to make it 1-1 in this one. And I think in the last road game, it was Ibiaga, the one that scored from Tafari's assist. So this is a reverse row. It seems like it's Tafari's turn to basically be on the goal scoring sheet, and Ibiaga on the primary assist chart here. And by the way, he also scored from Jimenez there to make it 1-1 in that one. But yeah, it was poor set piece defending from LAFC. I mean, that was just not great set piece defending whatsoever. And yeah, the game was all tied up at one apiece, but it looked like it wasn't going to stay tied for long, as a penalty was given to LAFC after VAR deemed that Ensemble brought down Vela in the box. But then in the 78th minute, Vela, we know that he's pretty much almost perfect guarantee from the spot. He struck the post on the penalty. And I know the announcer were saying that pretty much the entire stadium was stunned. And I think maybe they are, because usually they see Vela able to convert from the spot every single time. But I didn't think it was a stunning sensation, because the finishing was just absolutely horrendous from LAFC, and I think that PK just kind of sums up their night. It was just not their night once again in terms of finishing. But thankfully, they had this guy called Dennis Bawanga on the bench, and I was actually shocked when I saw Dennis Bawanga being subbed into this one, because remember I said that he was going to be missing in this game due to international duty. What I didn't know is that he would actually decided to fly back to the U.S. on a very short notice. In fact, to tell you how short of a notice it is, he literally landed in Los Angeles at around like 5:30, and about 2 hours before the game is going to happen, and made himself onto the bench for this LAFC team. Like, you talk about a guy that is just completely jet lag. Like, I feel like this is kind of something similar to what we saw with Sebastian Javenko did a couple of years with TFC, where he was fresh off of being with the Italian national team and then came back on a short rest to play for TFC. But this is even in an extreme level of what Dennis Bawanga has, and he actually had an instant impact too, because in the 82nd minutes, he would score here to retake the lead for LAFC, and it was definitely in an insane angle for him to score. I don't know how that one went in. Well, actually, I know it took a deflection. It took an unfortunate deflection there from FC Dallas, which just kind of sums up FC Dallas night. Like, it just feels like everything was kind of against them in this one, and this was just one of those one that is the case. But yeah, that retakes the lead for LAFC. And that would be the final score of this game, as in the end, they win 2-1 in this one. Shots in this one, 21 shots compared to 7 that Dallas had, 6 shots on goal for the 3 that Dallas had, 10 shots off target for the 2 that Dallas had, 5 shots that was blocked for the 2 that Dallas had, and possession-wise, 58% possession compared to 42% possession that Dallas has in this game. And again, just Dallas really hard done in this one. I think with the effort that they put in, it should be worth at least a point, but obviously, unfortunately, there is no moral victories in MLS. It is going to still count as a loss for FC Dallas in this one, but for LAFC, ugly, ugly win in this one. But hey, that's what champions does. That's why LAFC won MLS Cup last season. There's an old saying that even when you're not at your best, champions are able to still walk away with all 3 points, and that's exactly what LAFC did in this one, despite not playing well in this one, but still able to walk away with a big 3 points in this one. Well, there you have it. That is pretty much it in terms of the review of looking at the 6 games that finish off match week number 5. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these games. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.